Hello Minecrafters, Kevin here, responding to some well-appreciated input and criticism, as well as showing off a few more tricks up my sleeve far as the sideways pressure pad goes. So let's get started. Here we are. This is a version of the sideways pressure pad that does not use a sticky piston. Basically, the normal piston is put one forward, and though it's not as pretty, it does the job. And for those who just can't find those slimes on their servers or single player or in single player, this should do the trick. In this case, the block is right behind the piston, with the pressure plate being above it. The boat will go on the pressure plate, activate this piston on top to reset the boat, and even though the piston looks like it's at the side, because the boat has a large hitbox, it'll be pushed just fine by that piston. So as you can see, it works great. Alright, next, user Redstone Helper, which is appropriate on Reddit, pointed out you can use steps to make it so that the glass pane or iron bars that are used don't try to attach themselves to the wall. And so that's what's used here. You can see that it kind of just floats out in the air there, versus when it's used with a normal wood block, it will try to stick to it. And so if you prefer it to be visually just sticking out there, that's cool. That'll work just fine. Alright, next thing, this is your normal invention, and I hope you see it well this time, because before I had bloom effects involved and other things which made a room that was entirely white, which I was trying to do to make things distraction free, but apparently that was more distracting in itself than default Minecraft textures or a default Minecraft environment would have been. So I would love your input. This is just snow right now, but it's using default textures and no sort of graphical enhancements. Is this cool? Do you like this? Or would you prefer something else? Would you prefer maybe a gray wool ground? Or just stick with grass? I would love your input, because I don't necessarily have good tastes. Anyway, here's the original invention. What I meant by for an output, you can put a repeater like this feeding out there, or a torch, and that'll get signals from both pressure pads. Like here, you can actually get rid of one of these pressure pads and it'll work fine. But the boat has a risk of getting off center. You can see that it just doesn't quite work as well there, and that's because the pressure pads themselves actually work to center the boat, whereas even a wall would not. When a boat collides with the wall, that wall doesn't restrict it at all, but the pressure pads will. So they actually, I have it on both sides for a reason, for the most part. The next thing, here's that original door thing. I came up with a much more simpler way of separating the resetting piston and the piston that pushes the player away. And so this is it. And this works fine. That'll activate the door just fine. Now that I have the default texture pack, I hope you can see that, yes, all of these are normal dirt blocks, and this is the irrigated block below to make the keyhole. And I had some very good user input. For example, let me just check here because I want to get his name right. DMC K2B, as well as Denny Tom, both suggested, well, why not just use the fence with the pressure plate on top? And this is something I've experimented with before, but unfortunately you can't really hide the redstone well with this. You can see that it will activate the redstone just adjacent to the fence, but anything below it is not activating. And that is because the fence itself cannot relay a signal. It's a transparent block. So in redstone speak, that means that the signal will not be powered by the pressure plate, and that means it can't power wire. So the only way to do it is having that redstone wire right behind it, which isn't really visually appealing. Another way to do it is with a piston behind it. So you can see here that it does actually activate here, and basically the pressure pad is activating the piston, which is pushing this block forward over a torch, which allows that to power the redstone. But again, that's not completely visually appealing, but it gets the job done. And it's more like a real pressure pad in the sense that you can stay against it, and it'll stay powered as long as you do. Versus my solution pushes you away. Alright, here is Soul Sand, and the reason I have this here is I had one user complain that it wasn't working in his multiplayer server. It's worked for me just fine in mine, but boats can be buggy. I know that I've been kicked off a server, for example, for hacking because I was going too fast, even though all I was doing was riding a boat. So boats will sometimes jitter really fast, really slow, much faster than they should, and that could probably cause it to break against the piston if it's being really laggy. So I guess my simple solution is put some Soul Sand in front, and that'll force users to go slow enough that they won't push the boat too hard and make it so that the server will break the boat. But the user didn't really tell me what his problem was in multiplayer, so I don't know. If you guys had any issues in multiplayer, let me know. I'd like to know if there is any, and hopefully I can fix them. Alright, a user that goes by Magical Teapot, though his username is Potted. I'll send a link here. He showed me a little invention he came up with, which is very simple. It uses a minecart, and it, again, is a way you can detect it against the wall. It can't be hid very well, but you can even stay against it and it'll work like a pressure pad or a pressure plate in that it'll stay activated as long. Now he noted it doesn't work perfectly because the torch just blinks on and off a bit because it's not covering that detector pad the whole time. But my simple quick fix for that is put a repeater and set it at 3 ticks. And that 3-tick repeater does a really good idea of averaging out any sort of noise in a signal. So any blips of activity or non-activity will just kind of get removed out of it. And so as you can see, now when you go against the wall, the torch stays constantly turned off, which means things are activated, which is great. And another quick thing, I wanted to figure out how can I best hide this sort of detector if you wanted to do it. I guess you can put signs in front, use metal bars, which are less obnoxious. And so this is, I guess, the best I can come up with. But it works really effectively, and I definitely recommend it as an alternative way to do things. Though Magical Teapot says that he's not really sure how well it works in multiplayer because minecarts can be a bit unpredictable in multiplayer. But I would guess that it works just fine. That's all I have to show you, but golly, thanks to you guys, I had a nice big jump in subscribers. So I am over 500, which I'm really excited about because actually it was my birthday today, which it's the best birthday gift ever. Well, it's good. It's nice. That means I need to show off my latest invention, and really the only thing holding me back from it is some glitches I'm having. All the redstone should hypothetically work for it, but I'm using a lot of instant wire and other things, which is making it so things that should work simply aren't. It's just bugging out and not working. So apparently I might need to look into the way Minecraft does its hash sets and other stuff. If anyone has any advice on that, I would appreciate that. But anyway, until I show that, which will have to be a few weeks from now because I'll be out of town for a week and a half, I hope to see you then, and I appreciate your support and input.